Welcome back, everyone, to the Intel Extreme Masters Chicago South American Qualifier. Justin Kaplan, joined by Snoods, as we get underway with our second match of the day. Now, Snods, let's kind of break things down as we bring up the bracket to show you guys who has played so far today and who has won and advanced through into the winner bracket. But let's kind of talk through some of these results, because Luminosity, the team we expect to most likely make it through into the grand finals and probably be the team to represent the region, had a rocky start.
Yeah, I mean, so far, coming into this qualifier, into the bracket play after the first best of threes have been concluded, I think things have gone as expected, right? When you look at these teams on paper, Luminosity, No Tag, Team Wild as well, having a few players that were previously from Luminosity. So obviously wins there from Team Wild, expected. No Tag win as well, expected. W7M with the win over Isurus. You know, those are two teams that are rather unknown. And obviously, as we said, we saw in the mainstream as well, only, 2 hours ago, Luminosity taking down Santos Esports 2-0, even though the last map was fairly close. But this means now we have the bracket shaping up to be the winners matchups of Luminosity versus W7M, No Tag versus Team Wild, and then at the lower bracket, Santos, Isurus, Ro4, and Revolts.
Well, yeah, and we can actually probably hop straight into our vetoes now for our next match, which will be Luminosity versus W7M. Now, we guys did have you waiting, unfortunately, a little bit long there, waiting for the W7M game to finish, but we're about to get underway with this match. Vetoes are coming through, and to start things off with, we do have Overpass taken away. Now, what other maps, before we do see the rest of the vetoes, do you expect to be taken away in general in this series?
I think Mirage could be a ban coming out from W7M. I think also a Mirage pick could be fairly decent as well coming out from LG. I think the maps could be Inferno, Train, and Mirage. If it's going to be picked here, then that's going to be interesting to come up here as well. Obviously, Mirage first pick. Well, we'll just go over the bans as well. LG banned out Nuke last time versus Santos. Seems like a perma-ban coming out from them. Overpass as well from W7M. For these teams, obviously, they are domestic, so maybe they know each other's map pool in and out, or maybe they're just banning out their perma-bans early on, so not sure as to how this one will go. I imagine we see Inferno, Train for the remaining two maps.
I'm going to be ballsy and say, you know what, because I have nothing to lose on this. Dust 2. We're going to see Dust 2.
Okay.
Happening.
Cash pick, that's fairly close.
Just kidding, not happening. Yeah, Cash, or Cash, depending on where you're from. Going to be a pick, and you talked about this as being a map that can kind of favor LG's side. When we looked at our first match we had happen with Santos versus LG, can kind of favor N1 and how he likes to play the flamboyant style with AWP.
Yeah, so Cash was actually banned out by Santos in the last best of 3. The reason is obviously Luminosity being a very good team on Cash. Highly skilled team. They rely on skills sometimes, and Cash is a map which you can exploit that. Terrorist side going for picks towards boost. If you boost up there, going for the A main peak once the smoke fades. Obviously towards B as well, the AWPers can have a very, very large impact there. Double AWPing on the CT side can be impactful with a 1-3-1 setup. So yeah, Dust 2 ban, unfortunate.
You know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
What's your forfeit going to be?
What do you mean?
Stay here for the rest of the night.
Oh, we'll have an update about that later on today, actually. Train going to be the final ban by Luminosity, and Inferno will actually be our last pick, which we did see LG have a fantastic game on, finishing 16-4, if I'm not mistaken, against Santos. But there's our maps. So Mirage, Cash, and Inferno.
Yeah, I think the Mirage one, obvious. The Cash one, because even though it wasn't banned out early on, fairly obvious this comes out either Train or Cash. But then again, obviously, your map pool is going to be strengthened in terms of Train and Cash. But what's your opposition's map pool going to be looking like? You know that they're strong on Train. Take that away. Ban Train, leave Cash in. Obviously, their Cash might be weaker than yours. Exploit that. And the final map is Inferno. And obviously, we saw a very strong performance come out from LG on Inferno, 16-4. Dust 2 ban, and the ban of, my mind slipped me, Dust 2 and Train, etc. So, yeah. Interesting to see.
Both teams did play Train, actually. The match we were waiting on with W7M was on Train. And that actually, they almost lost that one. It was really,
16-13.
close.
I think they had like a 16 or like a 14-6 advantage. We're like, okay, we're going to be delving into this game in about 20 minutes. And then an hour passed, and it was 14-14 or something.
We got massages. I think we played a little bit of golf here around the office.
Oh, yeah.
Still had half an hour to spare.
Bit of bowling as well, and some werewolf.
Yeah.
Never played that game before.
I don't think it was Werewolf. I think it was a different... No, wait. I think it was Werewolf.
I'm pretty sure it's called Werewolf.
But there was no Werewolf in the game.
Maybe it's just a German game. I've never heard of it before.
Germans and games, they don't really overlap much. Yeah, so this will be our set of maps. More importantly, though, I asked you this last time. Again, we're going to get a lot of teams, a lot of people, and even ourselves, are not going to be familiar with from this region, from these qualifiers. W7M, obviously the pressure is going to be on them now, up against LG. So looking at the maps we have with Mirage, Cash, and Inferno, let's start things off. If they're going to win the series, do they have to take Mirage? Or do you feel like they could potentially I mean, because you already talked about Cash being a really strong map for LG, right?
It is,
So
it
to me,
is.
it's like you have to win that first map and then hope you can beat them on Inferno.
Well, we saw the prime example of it with the first best of 3. We said that Santos had to, if they're going to win at all, their win condition has to be a win on the first map being Inferno, because they're going to lose Train. And what happened? They lose Inferno, they lose Train as well. 2-0 loss there. Same as you said can be mentioned here in this best of 3 as well for W7M. If they do lose on their first map pick being Mirage, going into Inferno, we know how strong LG can be on that map. Just, a few hours ago, they're looking very, very prevalent on that map. So, yeah, it does all really start to forebode into a best of 3 victory for LG. Obviously, it was a 2-1 win for W7M in the best of 3 versus Isurus, and Isurus being a much weaker team than LG to go to the distance. I think it was 16-14, 16-13, 16-13 as well in that best of 3, which means
really
that
close.
wasn't as if it was a 16-4 blowout like we saw with LG, a very close best of 3 where it could have been either team that was here in front of us here on the mainstream. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of caliber of teams, in terms of the map pool as well, you've got to be favoring LG just because you see Cash and we see Inferno.
Well, I'm actually thinking about something that kind of is what we had come to light with the last match we casted with Santos versus LG, is the double op setup. Cash could be a very good map for that. Obviously, have one on the B side, one on the A side. We look at Mirage as well. Very good opportunity to have one middle or have one over towards B. And even Inferno, we've seen them already use the double op setup. So to me, it's kind of like if LG gets rolling, if they get started with double ops like we've seen them do in the past, I feel like it's almost a train that just can't be slowed down.
One other sign of that as well is the fact that their permaban is Nuke, of course. And Nuke is notorious for being an AWPer's graveyard. The reason being is obviously when you think about the sites, it's tight choke points, you're pushing through a squeaky door, pushing through heart. These are positions where with an AWP, it's just far less dynamic than a rifle, which can obviously chains, flick, trade kills, whereas an AWP's running through a tight scenario has to stop, scope, and then shoot, and you always have the disadvantage in that regard. So in after plants on Nuke, it can be good, but generically, apart from the CT side at the start of the round, hasn't got much of an impact. Therefore, they are banning that map out. Could it be because their double op setup is very strong and Nuke doesn't really work off a double op setup? That could be why. Obviously,
or it's just maybe not a favored map by most teams out there. Is there even a team anymore that favors Nuke? Because in my day, I sound really old. It was very games.
Back in my day,
it was very games and NIP were like the two teams.
Very games and the Danes, TSM, right?
TSM wasn't around. TSM was around, but did they play a lot of Nuke back then? I think that's when Nuke was out of the pool. I want to say I don't remember. It's a long time ago. It was at least 3 years. So
back then as well, it was like if you got 3 T rounds, it was considered like a job well done.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I remember seeing NIP versus Very Games in like the grand final of like the EMS1. It wasn't even like the actual major. It was like before it even happened, like the league that we had happen here in Cologne at our old studios. But yeah, I don't know. Nuke, it's I guess one of those odd maps that people still haven't come around to. And actually, since we have a little bit of time here, waiting for the game to start. I remember there's been a lot of talk, actually, in the scene from pros about wanting more maps in the pool to play.
Well, obviously,
there's like it's a very controversial topic. But I remember back when Cobble was at an overpass, people hated the maps.
Oh yeah, of
course. And then
course.
after that, like one event, that one major where they had to play it, everyone's like
14 Cologne, right?
Sure. I don't remember.
NIP
was it
right?
then? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, wow, okay, actually Cobble and Overpass are really fun, you know? And I feel like that's something that's been kind of ingrained in a lot of CS players' minds of we only have these set maps and nothing else ever gets added. Do you think there should be more maps added into the playlist?
The problem is you speak about pros, right? And obviously
like,
pros...
CPL Mill? Or whatever it's called nowadays.
Tuscan's the other one as well, famous out there. But the problem is, obviously, professionals want whatever's best for them. So coming into, before IEM Sydney, when the change came from removing Cobblestone and bringing in Dust 2, all the teams, Astralis, who used to permaban Cobblestone, hated Cobblestone. They wanted Cobble removed, Dust 2 brought back in. Gambit, a very good team on Cobblestone. Space Soldier is a very good team on Cobblestone. If you ask them in interviews, they kept saying, yeah, we love Cobblestone, we hate Nuke or whatever, right? And they always favored themselves. And, it boils down to the fact that pros want what's best for them, which is fair enough. Obviously, it's a very competitive market right now, and it's always going to be competitive,
money's on
right?
the line. $1 million for a major.
Their pedigree, their prestige, their history all goes down and boils down to, you could argue, sometimes the map pool. We saw a massive hint, or dent, should I say, against Space Soldiers when Cobblestone was removed and Dust 2 was brought back in. Some other teams, such as North as well, were heavily affected by that, as Cobble was a very good map pick for themselves. Heroics and other. There's so many teams that had Cobblestone as a very popular map for themselves. So, yeah, it depends what they remove, right? If they remove Nuke, then Heroic are going to complain.
No, I don't mean
upset.
Remove maps. I mean literally make the pool bigger.
But then you have to change the veto
maps.
because it's best of threes. And obviously best of threes work because it's even, odd number. Then you have to add 2 maps as well. You're going to have to really add 2 maps at that point. Maybe it's Tuscan and Mill, as you said.
You're thinking about all the small things. I'm thinking about like the grand scheme of things. Do you think it becomes too stale to play the same maps over and over, or do you think new maps should slowly be added over time?
So there's a pro and con to that. The longer a map is out, the more tactical the map can become, if you understand what I mean, right? The longer a map's been out, the more smokes are found. Mirage is a perfect example of that, right? Even to this day, there are new smokes being found that can be thrown from T-spawn outside the A site towards B, towards middle, that can sell fakes, intricate strategies that can always be developed over time. Inferno's another map as well. With the
Ash with the wall bangs that came out of nowhere, people realized you can opt people from T spawn in towards middle.
Speaking of cash as well, another map which had the skyboxes changed, and suddenly there were new strats coming out where you could throw elaborate smokes from the CT side. I mean, you can smoke off. Now you can smoke off the back of A main from the CTA site, which you could never do before because they open up the skyboxes. So it also adds more depth to the map. So you have the pros and cons, right? New maps mean new environments. Obviously a change of pace, a change of scenery, which obviously adds, I don't want to say new life, but maybe a little change, which can be nice time to time. But then again, you have a map for longer time. It builds up historic matches. How many historic matches have we had in Inferno? Mirage.
I'm thinking of Overpass, actually, with a couple in particular in my mind.
Well, the reason you might say that, actually, is Overpass used to be very heavily in the meta back in 2014, 2013.
I'm thinking back to the boost.
Oh, yeah. DreamHack went to 2014. It all blurs into one at one point.
Yeah, it does. But it's good times. No, I like to see things like this because you talk about once obviously a new map comes out, the longer you play the map, the closer you get to the ceiling of the map, the skill ceiling.
New strategies come out, new smokes, etc. Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know. I feel like adding new maps over time is something that can be always very interesting. Like Overpass is probably one of my favorite maps actually, and it was never in existence in Source 1.6, to my knowledge. I mean, you still have things like Tuscan, like CPL Mill. That was a major 1.6 map that just kind of disappeared from the pool for some reason when we got to CSGO.
The reason being is the map developers own the rights. And now that the game is so big, the map developers probably want crazy money for it to be brought into the game. And obviously Valve are thinking, Valve are probably...
Not live. No, we're not live.
Okay.
This is
For a minute then.
Still wait for the teams.
Okay, for a minute then. Obviously, yeah, we're waiting for the players to ready up. We're not going to be rambling for our own will. We're
not talking just because we want to hear our own voices. Yeah, we are waiting for, I think, one player who did disconnect, who timed out, who will be hopping back in a moment's time. And ignore the Isris. It will be Luminosity up against W7M. Not sure exactly what the sides will be just yet. Actually, I have to look back to the veto, and I don't remember who chose what side. But either way, Mirage.
Yes.
Again, one of my favorite maps. As you were saying, a hometown map of the region. And funny enough, considering South America and North America are so close to each other, from my memory, North American teams hate Mirage, and they tend to opt away from it. At least like the Cloud9s back then, a couple of years back. So curious to see how obviously the regions who are so close to each other just diverge so awkwardly when it comes to maps.
Well, nowadays, obviously, Mirage is a heavily played map by NRG, by Liquid. Cloud9 as well lets it through the map pool as well into the vetoes. So Mirage has managed to find its way in towards the North American vetoes and maps being played. Typically, I mean, it is the more strategic maps that get banned out by the North American teams. We're talking more Nuke, Overpass, Train, etc. Obviously, the running condescending joke is the fact that the North Americans are very highly skilled. They play that pug style, so they love caches, Mirage, Infernos, maps that are very loose, which are pug-styly.
CLG. Sorry, CLG was the team I remember hated Mirage. Who always vetoed it away, yeah.
They liked Overpass.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why you have that.
I mean, obviously, again, I'm not denying, that I could be missing gaps of history here in moments, but at least when I was casting 3-4 years ago, CLG hated Mirage. Most of the North American teams I've met did not like the map either. They tried to stay away from it, whereas I guess in South America it really flourished because that's what got South America on the map, right? With Luminosity Gaming back, when they came SK and then became made in Brazil, was that big match versus Fnatic where they just surprised everyone and beat the unstoppable Giants.
Yeah, I believe that's when they qualified for top 8 at one of the majors. Obviously, that was back before they had Code Zero on the roster and Fur was the star player. Back then, Mirage was the only map that SK, back then Luminosity, back then Keyed Stars were only known for. It was Mirage, best of one upsets.
And Keyed, wasn't it? Yeah, played Fnatic.
Yeah. And those best of one upsets almost served them so well to get into a few tournament top 8s. Obviously, well, even nowadays, actually, you get into top 8s, you get invited to these events, and you sort of chain those top 10, top 15 HTV rankings because you are invited to the Tier 1 events. If you're invited to Tier 1 events, you then play versus better teams. If you get the wins versus better teams, you also get to a much better ranking. And it can make it quite impenetrable to make it into the top 10, make it into the top 15 if you are not being invited to those closed qualifiers and have to go through the slog of the open qualifiers.
Well, I mean, on that note, speaking of like the diversity between like the Tier 1 teams and Tier 2, every esport I've ever worked on, every game, there's always this point that happens, whereas like teams who are, say, number 1, or let's just say top 10 in the world in CS, who won't even bother scrimming teams who are 11th through 20th, or even lower than that, because it gives them no advantage to make another team better where they learn nothing off of it. I don't know if that happens as much in CS as it does in other games, but like why would Fnatic, or I mean, why would any top team right now play against a no-name Tier 3, Tier 4 team?
There's reasons, and one of the reasons is the major coming up. So back a year and a half ago when I used to play, we used to scrim versus Tier 1 teams, right? FaZe, G2, etc. And the reasons they wanted to play us, obviously being Endpoint, an MDL team playing in Mountain Dew League, playing in Premier, the reason they wanted to scrim us was they could refine strategies versus teams they know are not going to be at the major. Let's be frank. Is a UK team ever going to make it to the minor? No. No. UK.
Will the UK team ever stay alive longer than a couple months?
No.
Probably not.
But what it means is when they do scrim versus us, they were doing crazy, crazy strategies. I remember when we played G2 on Cobblestone, they had a 4 Molotov strat towards the B side. They would Molotov tree, speedway, the back of default, and they'd molly the stairs and cubby. It was 4 Molotovs, 5 Molotovs. It was really, really strange. And they actually brought it out at the major that came up afterwards in Krakow, I believe. And it was one of those scenarios where we knew that they weren't playing serious.
Well, at least that's actually a really cool aspect that I did not honestly think about. So thank you for your insight there on that one, Snods. As we load into, and I think we are now live here with Luminosity up against W7M Gaming. Luminosity on the CT side, W7M over on the T. And off the get-go, can already see the bomb is waiting over towards apartments. So most likely going to be a hit towards A site. And Lucas, I think he just barely caught RMN there. I think he just saw his shoulder, which was why he backed away, looking for a potential boost. But they're sneaking in. They're already coming through connector here. The one man's going to be stealed to defend the site, and Yell, trying to defend from short, just gets taken down. Imagine they do have a kit on steal, which so they're going to play for the aftertake situation, and W7M, they don't have any utility to use after this.
Bomb going to be planted. 5 versus 4. As it's Lucas in towards jungle to find the first frag onto Riot as well. Goes for the second, lines up the third. Gets the hat-trick of frags towards jungle. And that could just be enough here to bring LG over the finish line. As it's Pank, the 20-year-old star player here for the team of W7M. But unfortunately, the stars do not align for W7M. The bomb will be defused in the smoke. And with that, YJ with the final player hitting the deck for the T's. As it goes 1-0, heading into round number 2. Obviously, that should have been the round for W7M.
Okay. You know what? I don't want to sound too harsh, but you should never lose a 1-on-3 like that.
Well, it comes back to the same...
Lucas shouldn't get those 3 kills.
Yes, and the reason being is we should be seeing better trades from a team of this caliber. We saw the exact same from Santos, where they would push in, die the first player would die, but there'd be no tread-up frag immediately afterwards. And it's a big sign of these teams that lack that cohesion. Maybe this is a new roster. Maybe this is a roster plagued by fear, and that fear is going to be capitalized off of a player like Lucas. But towards underpass, towards top middle, it's all coming up in favor of LG. As to be expected, with the bomb going down, there should be the eco here, Jason, from W7M, which it is. And into the third round, they can buy their AKs and show us the real buy.
Oof, nice little shot there on the Pank, on a steal. YJ, the last one alive, up against the entirety of Luminosity. I don't think I'm going to drop a single player. But again, I really go back to that first round, like, I feel like if you're Lucas, you should never be able to pick up those 3 frags. And I think you got to be hitting the nail on the head with what we've seen out of W7M. Like maybe they are a newer roster. Maybe they're not used to playing against one of the best teams in the region. But obviously, it's only the first map. It's only the first round. So I don't want to be too harsh on them, as time is obviously going to continue to tick away. And they do have AKs, and it looks like they have the smokes to open up a push onto this A site.
So, going to be the contact play potentially, which it is. Players behind the smoke actually not going to be affected there by the HE grenade, but they are going to be affected by the vision of the CT player. Steel sees them flooding out through a ramp and through palaces. They're going to be swarming the A side. The bomb can now go down, and this is the position where W7M cannot let go of this one. Into the after plant they go. Bomb planted for ramp and palace. Should be looking good here.
They They have 2 flashbangs. They do have a Molotov. So they have some utility to use, but the retake, look at Nekus and Yell. They have everything to throw into this one. 2 players even rotating around from T-spawn, trying to get over towards middle to actually flank in from behind. And if they're quick enough, they might be able to do so, but the rest of W7M might be overrun in time. Rafa finally able to get here in time, doesn't get the first frag. RMN as well on the side actually picks up one himself, and it's a good chance that W7M can win this. Now it's just Nekus all alive by himself, and W7M with the really risky flank. They pull it off majorly, and they get the round on the board.
Well, the flank there being the insurance policy to come in from behind towards Connector from B Shore. Obviously, it was the 5 versus 5 retake from LG. They had 3 players coming in towards Connector, 2 players from CT. They can smoke the bomb, Molotov at their positions, and flush out the players from W7M. But the flank paid off
So
too
risky.
well. The flank,
so risky. If Luminosity were like, what, 5 seconds quicker on that push, that would have been a different story.
Exactly, right? They used their utility to slow them down. They were Molotoving towards jungle. They were smoking off towards CT to delay the push and the retake from LG, to have the impact of the flank to come into full throttle. But Yellen towards Connector has the help as well of N1 in towards top of middle, but going to be caught off guard with a flash in hand, but it's N1 towards top mid. Spots the first player, unable to get the second as well onto YJ, as we see the 4 versus 3.
Oof, nice little shot of Lucas there, takes Rafa down. Panic looking to come out from Palace. It looks like they do have that A site to their names. Problem is you have Steel, who's actually pushed in A ramp behind them with just that 5-7. If he can get this big kill, the Riots, it would have been massive, but he's going to fall. Bomb has been planted, and Nekus and Lucas, they do have some guns. The question is, do they want to go for the retake here? No kit currently on them. Not sure if one actually was down at the site. Looks like maybe with that missed window jump, they want to put the brakes on here and back away. Lucas tries to push in through connector. YJ is going to be there next. Don't tell me. Okay, I'll have to say, don't tell me he's going to sneak his way in there to go for that potential defuse. And W7M, off the back of the plant in the first round, have been able to pick up the next buy rounds in round 3 and 4, and now tie things up at 2 apiece.
Yeah, W7M as well. Know the cash situation for LG. You're going to be investing into the MAC-10 there for RMN. And what you can do as well is be a vessel for information. Send in the MAC-10 towards the B or A site, gain information to see if LG are stacking. For example, here they're stacking 4 towards B, 1 towards jungle. So RNM coming in towards B apartments, going in towards underpass, going to be searching and trying to see if you can find out where exactly LG are stacking. Once they get the information relative, they can then go towards the site with no players or go towards the site with the lesser players and basically just exploit the information advantage they shall gain. And so far, they're positioning towards the A site, 2 in towards T-spawn, 3 in towards middle, but 2 towards connector. So cheeky little A split going to be coming in towards the A site. And we have obviously LG stacking towards B. So a game of chess going to be lost here.
So flashbang going to come in to allow RMN to push in, clear out staircase. As we can see, no one's even going to be there just yet. Luminosity are looking to pick up some sort of frags with these pistols. Rafa off the bat takes down N1. And I think Rafa's going to be overran here. Eventually, it still gets the frag. But I'm not sure he's able to pick up the gun as cleanly as he had hoped to. Lucas, the last man alive, has still had fallen. Just with 5-7 there. Not really able to accomplish too much off this. Eventually be overrun. Not able to take RMN down. And now W7M, who was pushed to the brink in their last match when they played up against Isris, is having a fantastic start.
So, 2-3. As you said, they are on the lead with their fantastic start. Into this one, though, it's going to be the 5M4 buy. No AWP for Yell, no AWP for N1 as well. And we know that that's a pivotal point for their CT side defense, bringing out the double op setup.
Well, speaking of ops, by the way, Yell did have one round 3. He did invest into it very early on. I'm not sure he picks up these 2 quick frags. He actually gets caught, switched over to the AK there.
Yeah, didn't expect more players to be there after killing 2. Obviously, he spots the bomb towards top of underpass as well, so he has going to be able to relay the information. There's 2 players there. And with that, N1 pushes in towards ramp. Steel can hold towards connector and spot towards B short, but look at all the information they're garnering and gathering towards T spawn. N1 now knows they're going to be situated towards the B site.
YJ can really not afford to die here too. With that bomb in hand, that almost guarantee the rotate out of LG to come through and make sure to protect that one. And one might actually hear YJ running in towards middle. Neck is going to actually get aggressive here on short. The bomb is slowly making its way here, and so it's eventually got to turn around in this corner. You can see Steel in towards jungle as well, so the second that shot comes through out of Nekus, But imagine the challenge to come in out of steel. 45 seconds left, and I guess it's being so patient. YG's gonna round this corner. He's gonna run right into a bullet here. Actually, indirectly shoulder peeks. Neck is eventually gonna take him down. Ro4 trying to survive in this one, but now Steel attacking from short, or sorry, from connector, drops him. And Riot's the last man alive. Does get a little transfer onto Lucas there, but not much more than that. And now Luminosity gonna pick up an op off of that with Nekus. Are gonna get a round on the board.
Yeah, they are indeed, 3-3. Obviously, in terms of their economy, it's going to be definitely helped by the fact they have retrieved the AWP off of the corpse of one of the players from W7M. So coming into round number 7 now will be the single AWP onto Yell. Maybe that signals that N1 is the secondary AWP and Yell is the primary, but we're not sure as of now, as Yell is playing towards middle here on Mirage. Smoke comes in towards connector. Will deny that Molotov to have an impact, but the flashbang will be dodged. But the bullet won't be by RMN. Is this going to be a 5 versus 4? Oh, no. 5 versus 3, actually, as Nekus somehow wins that duel versus YJ. And Pank now trying to see if he can get the frag in the favor of his team.
It's going to be massive. He could open up this A side by himself. He does no steals off over towards triple. And this is an opportunity for Pank to really come up big. Oh, but N1, just in the timing there. Kind of senses him pushing out from Palace and does a massive kill as well, because that could have quickly turned against LG. Now Ro4 and Riot's trying to do something in the middle. So many angles to watch. You can see the amount of CT players that are actually looking in these directions, and even Yell waiting with that open-handed connector. Doesn't even matter. Still just pushes out from mid-window. Gets a quick double. And LG back in the lead, most importantly, up to 4-3.
Yep, obviously 4-3 here. We have to factor in the fact that W7M lost it. It's such an awkward name to say for some reason.
It is.
I think maybe it's the different syllables or something. Just doesn't feel right. But W7M going to be taking the first couple of buy rounds. We have to factor in the fact that LG won the pistol and they've only got 1 round advantage this early on. So far in terms of buy rounds, W7M actually looking fairly good here, but going to be a lack of a buy round into this one. Into the 8th round, it's going to be the full eco coming out from the T's, as they're going to be onto CZs, Glocks, and basically nothing once they walk into the capable arms and the welcoming arms of Steel, Henny, and Yale towards the A side.
Keep in mind, Yell's actually been very fluid as well in how he plays middle. The op that he did have was donated over to N1. He's going to be sitting in towards back of site. The smoke's being set up for the push onto the A side. Could be pretty much, or sorry, flashes. They don't even have smokes. Brat's trying to allow his players in connector to successfully make their way through. They've been smoked out. Steel, though, been waiting. And he's been getting some pretty easy frags here. He gets the first 2. And 1 gets 1 as well. Last player alive, it's Riot's. He just get a nice little double with the CZ. He's looking for the 3rd. And he's going to be able to pick this one up. Yell goes down. And now he has access to a gun here. If he could just get around this corner in time. Lucas looking to potentially push him right now. And Nekus rotating from CT. They can pretty much guess he's going to be here in this corner as he's trying to play a fantastic angle. There's an opportunity he could win this one. They don't know he's there. He gets the 4th. 1 left to go, and he'll pull off the ace and the round here for W7M, who had basically nothing to use. And there it is. Lucas shuts that down with 21 HP left. But that was damn close for Riots.
Lucas there, jumping on the bench. Catches the spray there. Awkwardly off guard towards Firebox. Nearly had it. Would have been brilliant. Would have been one to remember from today. But instead it will be forgotten.
Been a 1v5.
Really?
Yeah, it would have been a 1v5.
I thought it was a 1v3.
No.
Well. Maybe that was one to remember for the week then. But going into this one then, still getting aggressive towards middle. Obviously, so far, Luminosity looking very, very good in the recent rounds. They're going to be forwarding their pressure, their momentum, and so far everything, as it's going to be. W7M or even any actually going to be finding the impact. Nekus as well towards connector to line up another player. Steel again chiming in as it's all just falling in favor of LG. W7M having a more of an impact with a 1 versus 5 on a full eco, let alone versus full weaponry when they have full weaponry of their own. So round number 10, 6-3. LG on the map pick of W7M have an advantage early on their CT side, but obviously, Jason, this map, notoriously CT-sided favored. Obviously, only 6 rounds garnered so far, so nothing to be too paranoid about if you're a W7M fan at home. But for now, once again, with the pistols, maybe a 7-3 scoreline to be expected.
Okay, Yellow and Hen, able to show what the double up setup can do. You mentioned pressure, by the way, the last round, and with having 3 players on LG actually push up in middle as well, uncharacteristically trying to catch them off guard, it really shows that they're starting to feel this game and starting to really try to keep W7M from being on balance. Yellow tries to go for the shot. Eventually just going to back away, though, as the 3 remaining players with 2 in middle trying to make their move. And Steel's quickly going to shut that down, say, no, go back to spawn. Collect your scraps of money here into the next round. And Rats, he pulled off an almost 1v5 in the last round. Not going to have a chance here, though, with the Deagle. And Luminosity up 7-3. So LG's starting to really come together as this match does go on. Obviously, you know, against ecos, against saves, it's not really that big of a deal. But every round you need to be able to secure.
Versus the save, as you said, but when you play versus the pistols time and time again, it allows for your economy to slowly but surely build. And so far it has. $9,000 for N1, nearly 7K as well for Lucas, 6.5, 7,000 for Steel. So cash is looking bright here for LG. Coming into the 11th round as well, W7M will have the buy round with 5 AKs, but there's no warp. There is strong utility, so they can go for an execution towards one of the other sites. They can play it slow, take mid-control, go for the late-round execution based off a mid-round call and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, so far, because there's so much cash in hand from LG, they can run a double up setup, which they are, onto Yell and N1. And
intentional, by the way, sorry to cut you off. Did he actually molly that to actually block the smoke out to have an angle here? They're not going to expect this. Yell, if he just picks around this corner, he could have a relatively easy shot. The man who's rushing connector, but no, Riots comes in massive, taking him down. And now to N1, who gets a nice little double kill there. Will eventually fall, but Steel's alive, and Steel has frags to pick up here. Pank's to come around the corner and take him out of the fight, but now we're down to a 2-on-2. Pank's partner in crime is going to be YJ, who's over in towards middle. He needs to help Pank out here. He's trying to go for a plant, maybe towards short. Do it inside of the smoke here, and Neka's looking to maybe get aggressive to stop this plant from going down. But either way, the bomb has been planted. Pank, turn around, son. That's going to be Neka's coming in for an easy kill. Downside is now that YJ is going to be here, but they do have a smoke. They do have 2 flashbangs as well. But they don't know where this last player is. Coming in from jungle now, YJ. Can really use this round for W7M. Smoke comes in, nade comes in as well. He's going to have to push out. They actually tap the bomb. He's going to have to give his position away eventually. Lucas is going to make the call out. He expects him to still be on the bomb here, but Nekas, he actually backed away from this one. The bomb is taken away. He's trying to go for the defuse here, but YJ is keeping him off it. He actually goes for an odd peek here, and Nekas gets the kill, but he won't get the round because you know what? YJ has stalled for a long enough time. And W7M, that was a massive round for them.
Nekas there, seconds away from the defuse.
Could have stuck it the first time too. That's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. He thought the player could have been ramp towards connector. He had his teammate holding for the jungle cross, but unfortunately, YJ was, I say unfortunately, fortunately for W7M, YJ was too much to handle. Very nice first shot on the first player towards triple, and then wins off of time versus Nekas. So 7-4.
Riots, by the way, I just want to point out, we talk about obviously YJ there to help win the round, but that kill he got onto Yell in middle, when we had that Molotov used to actually make the smoke go in an odd position so we can go for an early shot, was fantastic. And if that didn't hit, honestly, I don't know how that round would have turned out.
Yeah, it's so prevalent nowadays to see that in Pro CS where players anticipate the Molotov in towards window, so they obviously put their own smoke down, they bug it, or they stand in front of the smoke that lands and it also bugs it as well. I say bugs, it just stops it from blooming, and it gives themselves a one-way. But it's so expected now. Whenever you see that happen, you can just pre-fire that angle, which happened from Riots. But into this one then. N1, gonna spot 1. 2 players coming towards B apartments. So the flashbang is perfect as it connects.
This is backup though.
Yeah, has the full back, has the backup of Lucas here towards the side, but actually the action's going down towards middle. Nekis, Yell, able to wreak havoc onto the players from W7M as it's all down to Pank now towards the A site with the bomb. But if he gets that kill onto Steel towards CT, could have maybe got the bomb planted on the A site and worked it from there. But so far, W7M have lost momentum. The wind has, well, drifted away from their sails.
You know, I think one thing we need to look at now, Snods, is how W7M is setting up like their basic strategy, right? Because we've seen multiple times now in these 12 rounds that Pank has actually gone through Palace himself and gone for like the quote-unquote flank, like the lurk play. Hasn't worked out most of the times, but W7M just seem to be set on this. Let's give up middle and let's work towards B.
Well, it seems fairly obvious that they want to go for a mid-default, which is slow. Players underpass, as you said, who start off towards B apartments, they go towards underpass, they wait for the smoke connector to fade. The CTs have 2-3 smokes towards connectors, that takes off 45 seconds off the clock immediately. So typically, if you are running a slow default, you wait for that to fade. At that point, you have mid-control and you work off that. The problem is, N1 isn't playing aggressive towards middle, he's playing CT spawn, which means W7M, every single time they try to lurk out Palace, he kills them. Every time they lurk out Ramp, he kills them. Every time they even get the entry in towards Connector, N1 towards the CT ticket booth is able to find the kills towards Connector and deny the split towards the A site.
What's so unfortunate is that LG, I feel like, are going to continue to push middle like this until they get punished for doing so. Now with the 9-4 scoreline, they can afford technically to throw away some rounds or to be that aggressive, right?
So if you're W7M, this is where the crux is. Do you play passive expecting LG to get aggressive, which they have been doing towards middle, as you said? So you hold for that push, have an op towards bottom and middle, get the first kill and work off the pick, right? Maybe come back, T-spawn, execute towards A.
Or they just run 5 people out middle with pistols.
Yeah, it's not really going to be the best favor.
If they had guns, if they had AKs there, that actually would have completely caught LG off guard, and you were looking at 2 easy frags for themselves.
Yeah, but we've seen time and time again, teams get 2, 3-man advantages against LG, but the individual caliber of players still seems to be too much for some teams to handle. But yeah, obviously, the point I was making was, coming into this final buy round, does LG slow the pace down, expecting W7M to play passive? If they can work the clock off of that, save their utility for the 50-second minute mark, or do W7M play fast, try and catch LG off guard? As you saw in that last round of pistols, it can work.
Well, here we go into the final round of the half, 10-4. And Luminosity looking fantastic. They looked a little bit shaky in the beginning after they did lose a couple of rounds to W7M. But again, the mid push coming through. N1 with the AWP going to be pushing. He gets blinded up. Perfect timing out of Ro4. They do take him down. In the meantime, Yell now, who's locked into underpass. He's got to hope Nekus can really save his skin here as Yell's being burned away at 12 HP left. Another Incendiary coming in behind him. He's almost pretty much gone at this rate. Mirage's going to be pushing in as well at the same time. Yell eventually going to go down, and a big man advantage now for W7M until Nekus respawns. YJ those for the return frag. And now, just turn into a 2-on-2. And the last time we saw Lucas, I think it was Lucas and Nekus last time in a 2-on-2 up against YJ. And I want to say Ro4. But they do have the bomb, and they do have time to work with. But will they expect Steel to be flanking in from T-spawn? That's going to be the question.
So Till coming in towards T-spawn can gain the info that it's most likely going to be B, or they can come through Connector. And that's the risk that LG are going to take. They anticipate the play to come in through B apartments towards the B site. That's where Lucas is. However, W7M have anticipated this aggression towards T-spawn, or have they? Are they overthinking things here? Because they're coming in towards CT, but it all depends on Lucas. If his position is exposed towards kitchen, which it is, this is where things get very awkward for LG.
Still, though, he is in middle still. There's a good chance he could rotate in time. Lucas, some sort of idea that potentially could be flanking. 23 seconds left to go. Eventually, they will make their presence known, and it's going to come down if Lucas can hit these shots, or is YJ going to spot him out coming around the corner? They don't even notice him!
What?
Lucas! Oh, no. He spots the bomb carrier. He takes it down. 10 seconds left. Steel knows exactly where the last player is. The bomb will get planted, but it's going to come down to a one-on-one. Molotov and flash for Riots. Steel with nothing, just his aim, and that's all he needs to take the round. To put Luminosity up to 11.
11-4 at the half. Very, very commanding there for LG. They win the pistol, they get to double digits, and they're looking good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to head to halftime break here, but when we come back, it'll be the continuation of our first map here of this best-of-3 series. Welcome back, everyone, to the Intel Extreme Masters Chicago South American Qualifier. As currently, it's Luminosity up against W7M Gaming in our first map of this best of 3. Winner will go on to obviously progress further in the winner bracket. Unfortunately, the loser will have to drop down, well, to the losers bracket.
Yep.
I'm Jason Kaplan here, joined by Snods, and we're having an exciting game, actually. To be fair, the scoreline doesn't really give a good representation to how this match has gone so far.
Yeah, the rounds have been close, down to 1 versus 2s, 2 versus 2s, and the rounds haven't been blowouts. That's one of the issues we had with the first matchup. We saw, obviously, Santos versus LG, especially on the first map as well in the best of 3 series, a 16-4 scoreline, and it was a bit dull, a bit repetitive of just LG just stomping them on Inferno. But into this one, even though the scoreline is very one-sided for LG, the matchups have been fun. You know, we're witnessing CT aggression, we're witnessing...
A 1v5 happen with Riots, almost being able to pull off an ace and a clutch at the same time.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, you got to factor in, if that was an eco win, then the economy is soaring, because what happens when you win an eco is you have $2,000 saved, you then win the round, so you absorb the $3,500 round win bonus, so you have like 6,000 or 5,500, and suddenly your economy is looking very, very strong, and it can really dictate the half for you. So if that round was won, maybe we could be witnessing a 9-6, a 8-7, a much closer half, but obviously...
About CS, right, is like if like one kill went a little bit differently, the scoreline can completely change from 11-4 to 9-6, and that's like massive, especially on Mirage.
And what tilts me is when fans, or mostly just fans, just say, oh, I hate pistols, why are pistol rounds in the game, why isn't it CGS rules, if you remember from Source, where you spawn in 10k, there's no pistol rounds. The problem is there isn't a breathing, there isn't a breathing time? What would be the way I express that? There isn't time to breathe the team, where the pace slows and it builds up the tension slowly. There isn't rounds where if you lose this one, you're economically reset, so it adds extra pressure, extra tension to the round, and therefore it overall just nullifies the excitement. You know, rounds get repetitive quickly, you lose an extra level of tactician on pistol rounds.
Wasn't it Dignitas? Like, oh god, now I'm really showing my age here. Wasn't it Dignitas who like could win the pistol rounds, but they always struggled to win the follow-up rounds? Or is the other way around? They would always lose the pistol, but they would always win the second round.
Which iteration of Dig?
Because I think it was the MSL iteration.
Yes.
This is before they became TSM.
No, that would be...
No, this is when there was TSM, and there was a Dig team as well.
Yeah, so I remember this.
But they had these awkward things with pistol rounds, where they'd lose and then win the second round for
obviously,
some reason.
famously...
No, they would win pistol, then lose the second. That's what it was.
Yeah. So famously, you have the reverse of that as well with LDLC, or LDLCZ was their nickname, I think, LDLCZ.
Yeah.
Because of how good they were with the CZ back when it was, you know, the additional ammo, the quicker draw time, the overall just absurdity of that weapon. But yeah, into this one, we are at the halftime. Obviously, you can see the scoreline yourselves. We have to reiterate.
I missed the Tech 9 days. There was one time where like a decimal point got shifted the wrong way, involving when you're moving and shooting, like your accuracy, your moving accuracy, and Tech 9 was basically an op. People would just be running nonstop and shooting. It was like this weird update that happened, you know, like 4 years ago, whatever. But that was a good times. I missed that. It was fun.
Yeah, I think the Tech 9 made the game a lot faster paced.
It's just a shame no one uses it anymore.
Well, obviously the CZ's so powerful because of the rate of fire, right? Yeah. The problem with the Tech 9 is the running accuracy was nerfed, the standing still accuracy was buffed, but when you're using the pistols, you are not wanting to stand still. You want to jump around, you want to be strafing, you want to be basically rattling off 2-3 shots, moving, shooting again, to be hard to hit, to exploit the fact that the CZ has such a high rate of fire, to land the double dink up close, or to spray down someone running across the corner or jumping around the corner. So in terms of the meta, in terms of what's viable, the fact that you could argue the accuracy and damage was increased for the Tech 9. If you're talking just straight numbers, you're looking at each other dead on, the Tech 9 wins. But the CZ wins in terms of actual, playability, how...
a gun could be stronger statistically, but situationally, it could be like the worst gun to have in that situation. Like a CZ might statistically be worse than an UMP, but a CZ will be better, you know, for a certain situation kind of thing.
Precisely. So... coming into this one, obviously, the obvious narrative to mention here into the 16th round is the fact that LG, 11-4. If LG win this pistol in the conversion rounds against W7M, we're looking at a 14-4 scoreline, very similar to what we saw in the first map versus Santos. And W7M, 4 rounds. If they lose this, pretty much GG. But if they win it, they can bring it back. Make it 11-7, win that first buy round, make it 10-11, come back into this one and keep this game tense and interesting. Otherwise, more blowouts, but at least they want to bring us back onto schedule.
Yeah, just to update you guys on what's going on, we are waiting for a player to get back into game. You can see Luminosity currently missing out on, I believe it is Lucas. Actually, missing on quite a few players, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 players. There we go. And this is only our first map in the series. We still have Cash to come up second. And if we do see a third map, it would be Inferno. Obviously, Cash going to be a tough map to go up against LG on. But W7M, I think, have surprised us in a positive light. Yeah, you have to kind of keep in mind that there's a lot of teams participating in this qualifier that we don't really know a lot about. We don't have a lot of tape to look from, and we don't have a lot of knowledge on. And I would assume if you're Luminosity in this one, with kind of what's at stake, you're not going to underestimate any team, and you're obviously going to know teams from region a lot better. But this gives you guys, an insight into like what other teams are available that aren't, your typical Luminosities in the region.
Well, what was so interesting actually was the fact that in prep for this event, I found it easier to prep for IEM Shanghai, which had a lot of Asian teams, or when I did Asian qualifiers, where you have CSGO Asia, a website which is like a Asian Counter-Strike HTV, which has the information about the teams, interviews with the teams, history and storylines of the teams. So it makes it very easy to follow teams like Dreamscape, Tyloo, Boots, which is Dreamscape, 5 Power, many teams which you wouldn't know unless there were websites and information out there to read. And when it comes to the Brazilian team, I would anticipate better research to be had. The reason being is Brazil has its own streams, its own region that's popping off right now, obviously, with 2016 being the year of Luminosity, 2017 being a dominant year from LG, SK, going into SK. And what that means is I was anticipating, because there were more top 10, top 20 teams, LG and SK, in the HTV rankings, therefore, there would be more exposure there, more media coverage, more everything. But instead, they were far harder to research.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like going into other regions that we're not used to having like mainstream media, like your HLTVs, like you're saying, is very difficult. I mean, the amount of games I've covered from other regions that's not Counter-Strike and trying to research, for instance, researching Chinese teams was probably one of the most difficult things ever, because they would have different names. Like you would look at their roster online, it would say one name, but then when they get into game, they have different names. And like name changes, which happen a ton.
Which game
in China.
was this?
This was Overwatch, actually.
Okay.
They would change the names so often, we never knew who was who. Like some teams would just be numbers. There was literally a player named 177. And she was one of the only like female Overwatch players, like at a high level. But if you said her name in like the Chinese way or the Chinese language, it actually was really close to what her real name was. So it's like this really trippy stuff that happens when you're trying to like research and whatnot. But that aside, one thing we can kind of use to bring it back is we can take a look at the brackets actually and get an idea of who else is playing across the board here, because I think we have those updated to the best of our knowledge. You can see No Tag currently beating Team Wild 1-0. Still no results though in the lower bracket, unfortunately. And of course, our game here with LG versus W7M.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the favorites on paper are currently still in the upper bracket, LG and No Tag. For the players or the people at home who need some context on No Tag, No Tag is the former NTC roster, Phelps, Cello, KNG, Horvey, players that you are going to know, but maybe not know that team name of No Tag. Team Wild, if you follow the Brazilian scene, you would know Destiny and you would also know PKL, former Luminosity players who were replaced by N1 and Lucas. They have gone on to form Team Wild. So, No Tag versus Team Wild. Team Wild's maybe a dark horse here. I'm anticipating Team Wild to come third in this qualifier, maybe lose in the lower bracket final. And we see maybe the grand final, the best of 5 being LG versus No Tag. I think on paper that could be something to anticipate. However, so far, no real upsets coming through. Obviously, into the lower bracket there, Santos, we saw lose versus LG, Isurus lose versus W7M, and Real, Revolts as well. More organizations and teams that we just don't know about. And when you come into this, you do learn about new players. And it's where these new players can gain experience, gain, just team cohesion, experiences their rosters, and basically just get better as a team and use these demos versus better teams, such as LG, etc., to improve.
Yeah, and I think that's one of like the great things about CS becoming more globally well known is that you do get these qualifiers. Whereas in 2014-15, having a Chinese team, even an Indian team, I think we had at Cologne 2015. In general, like you just wouldn't see that happen. But now we're seeing obviously a more Australian team start to really rise up. Dick Stacey, just want to say his name just because. And
you can.
Yeah, exactly. Because we never would have known about those players without qualifiers like this, without incorporating more people around the world.
There's actually a player called Slag on one of the teams. If you want to bring up some PG-13 names that we can say because they're in the qualifier, plays for Ro4. So if Ro4 don't get knocked out by Revolts, maybe we'll be annoying our exes or offending our exes.
Maybe. I'm not. I'm not gonna go into it. I don't need my ex texting me saying, "What did you say about me?" I don't have an ex. I've been single my whole life.
If that's true, then fair play, mate.
I'm kidding.
Okay, good.
Look at me. Of course I had a girlfriend before. Anyways, looks like we're almost ready. As you can see, LG is still waiting for their last player to get back into this one. Should be ready to go momentarily. As obviously we're waiting to just regroup back in the server. Thing is, actually, yeah, they're lucky, right? Because currently over here in Germany, it is 11:41 p.m.
Please don't remind me.
Who would have thought of being up 7 a.m. right now, considering they have to cast all night? But they're obviously 9-hour difference, 9 to 6 hour difference. So not easy for them. But eventually games like this can wear you down mentally. Obviously, you being a pro player, having to do these long extended qualifiers, you get worn out mentally. You get exhausted, and when you have to play at this high level, map in, map out, match in, match out, eventually you start to slip.
Yeah, actually. When it came into those matchups, the problem I used to have was caffeine. So when you do play the long days, say you are playing 2 best-of-3s, 3 best-of-3s in a day, the problem I'd have was I'd take coffee in the first map, and then come to the third map. If it's an important one, I'd get another coffee, try get focused and into the zone. And the problem was, into the next best-of-3, I'd have a stomach ache, a headache, a dehydration, and it just whittled me down over time. So staying calm, staying level-headed, and spending your energy wisely into the best-of-3s. Obviously, you can do things extracurricular outside of Counter-Strike in terms of eating healthily, eating the right foods to sustain your energy, or exercise to increase your endurance. But yeah, long story short, obviously as a player, you do experience fatigue, as casters do, as everyone does in production.
We never get fatigued. We're always on point every second of every minute of every hour of every cast.
Yes, I wish I could.
Yes, you sounded so convincing there.
So, still waiting, still anticipating. Let's take bets here. Are we expecting LG to close this one out? Obviously, the 2-0 early on versus Santos. W7M as well, the 4-11 scoreline. And we still wait for N1 to fix his issue. Oh, it's not N1, it's someone else.
Yeah,
Who is it?
Else.
Lucas Steele. Steele has an issue.
Well, that's unfortunate for them, and that's definitely something that needs to be fixed. We do obviously apologize that this is taking so long. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to a short break here. You don't want to hear us talking about random things, about our experiences of trying to learn more about the Chinese scene in multiple games. And you definitely don't want to hear me talk about Overwatch. So we'll head to that break. When we come back, we should be in the continuation of our first map here of our best of 3. Welcome back, everyone, to the Intel Extreme Masters Chicago South American Qualifier. We do apologize for the delay, and we are finding out that the coach for Luminosity will be playing Zach instead of Steel, who unfortunately is having some problems reconnecting into the game. But either way, Luminosity have set themselves up nicely with a massive score lead, 11-4. And not to mention
It's fine, mate. It's fine. It's midnight here nearly in Cologne. And with that, it's nearly midnight for W7M. How's this going to be? 12-4, pistol round 1, bomb planted for the additional cash as well. So we're looking at what? Conversion rounds if LG win this one plus their eco, 14-4 scoreline. And yeah, 10 round advantage at that point. It should be a sealed deal at that point. So
not to mention they get a time between map 1 and map 2, so maybe Steel can actually fix out his internet issues and get back into the game.
Yeah, it could be even more delays.
I mean, it could be.
We're locked in here till 6 o'clock in the morning, Jason.
I mean, you're saying we. I don't know if I'm actually still in here until that time. We'll find out. Oh, that was almost a nice little spray down by Nekas. And Rafa's going to fall, unfortunately, to the Mac 10 of Zach, who's actually been able to net a kill each round. So he's already doing his own work. Yo, oh, yeah, that's easy kill. Coming through. It's 2-on-2. And with the CZ coming out of YJ, it's actually quickly turned into a 2-on-1 now. And 1. Going to be all up against YJ. He knows who the last player is. He knows there's the bomb right in front of him, and he knows that the gun from that range is going to be that impactful. Does dink him up nicely down to 52, but N1 will save the round. But that was still a very costly round.
Yeah, indeed it was. Obviously, at this point, though, Jason, money isn't the commodity. Rounds are the commodity when LG are this close to winning. They win this one versus the Felico, but you could argue for W7M, they can go for a 4 spy here as they are in need of rounds as soon as possible, as they are down 9 currently. And once it goes to 14-4, I don't know about you if you're an optimistic man, Jason, but I think this is all said and done in favor of LG. This is also the map pick coming out from W7M, so that does not forebode too well going into the map pick of Cash for LG, for W7M going forward. But yeah, Yell this time coming in towards the B site, has the Mac 10 versus the USPs. No armor, no utility, so easy frags being found. But actually the real play from LG coming towards the A site. But at this point, it really doesn't matter with the discrepancy between weapons.
At least it shouldn't matter here as Riot's able to get a kill into Lucas. Getting a couple of extra opportunities to go for some shots. And one's finally able to shut him down. But 14-4 now is the scoreline here. Luminosity 2 more to close out the first map and take us over on to Cash. So far, Zach, 2 kills, 1 death. Not bad for Coach stepping in last second. One of his players couldn't be there. And, you know, who else would you need to bring in? This man's going to know all the strats. He's going to know exactly how your team plays. And hopefully for him, he can fit that Steel role for his team. As we're going to see a couple move over towards Palace. Even Zach going to be going that direction as well with Yell just to hold the push. N1 going to rush out here against these weapons. Peng's going to be dropped immediately by N1 getting super aggressive to apartments. And a Rafa ideally should be blocked off here, but that's a fantastic shot onto Zach. Riot's now going to be coming up staircase to look for a shot potentially because there's no smoke to block him off, but he's so scared, he's so afraid to do it.
One will be planted for CT. We have to keep in mind as well the flank that could come in from Nekis as he is towards the B side, so we can jump off, peer in towards shore, have the angle towards connector, and basically be the insurance policy here for LG to get them to their 15th round, especially now as YJ goes down. I mean, these frags are gonna stink. As it's
these frags are nasty, some of these coming out of Luminosity. Yeah. You really have to respect them, and almost unexpected at some time as they just sneak out. But LG, though, 15-4, 1 round away from closing out this map. Even though Zach did die there, Nekas at 20 frags, and 1 at 18. Lucas, I guess he reconnected, so he did lose his scoreline there. Currently at 3-2. But LG have a lot of time, a lot of money to work with here, and a lot of rounds that they potentially could throw away. But you know then that they probably want to lock this down now. You don't want to give any sort of hope to W7M.
It's true. Obviously, at this point here, Jason, this is the part where they try and gain confidence rounds. Chance to win the map is impossible. Instead, they can try and get 4, 5 rounds in a row to show and feel that they can actually beat these guys. You know, win Angels, win rounds, out-strategize them, and try and get some confidence going into the next map, which is Cash. But for now, obviously, it is the 5 versus 5 still here with a minute 15 left on the clock. Heading towards CPL. But apart from that, he's not going to be tested this early on. Lucas instead towards Palace, anticipating a play towards the balcony, but it's actually going to be Riot here playing the off angle, currently hiding towards Palace.
Some good positioning. But those umps in close range can just decimate you if you're LG. That Molotov going to come in. If he did throw it, that would have pushed Riots right out of this position. And it's going to do just that. Actually, no, it's going to go in through the shadow. Riot's actually going to peek out in the meantime. Gets a nice little clean kill. And now W7M, they have the man advantage. They have an AK in the hands of Riots, who's eventually going to fall to N1. And Zach, unfortunately, Frame was able to push it towards Jungle, but he's going to lose the aim battle up against RMN. Now it's going to be a 2-on-3. Yell has a ton of HP to work with, but Utility is just not going to be there. Flashbang, he's going to have to push CT to take this player down. He's going to do just that, but now it's him against 2. YJ going to come up big again here for W7M, and now we'll give them another round, and for their sake, delay the inevitable to potentially throw off a tie.
15-5, so W7M still going to be in this matchup, but question is for how much longer and for how many more rounds is this going to be? The 4-buy coming out from both teams. UMP is the only weapon that isn't going to be tier 1. Everything else is rifles, M4s. Actually, no AWPs coming into this matchup, so opening picks may not be the salient factor into this round, as it's going to be LG lining up the smokes towards the A site, going to be grinding through the gears now to try and close this map out as swiftly as possible.
They had the money to, though. It looked like Lucas had the money to actually buy up an AWP if they wanted to go that route, but I feel like, to me, they just want to get up close and personal with these AKs and just blow them away and overrun this site. Rafa, in the meantime, not going to be smoked out. Maybe a little bit of a misstep here out of LG as the Molotov comes in to act as a pseudo smoke. Pink able to get one, but N1's able to respond. Still, man advantage in the way here of W7M. That was a great shot of Yell to open up the site. Bomb could potentially be planted now. They need to smoke off towards short, which you can see now. One thrown in. The man towards staircase. And one could have actually got Riots there. I don't know, maybe he didn't actually see him. And it's allowed him to push up, get a major frag. And now it's just down to a 2-on-2 with YJ holding CT. He's looking to take Zach down. The spray will connect, but Zach is burning. Eventually will fall. Now on the hands of N1 up against 2, just with the AK. And Riots will be there. And W7M get another round on the board.
6-15 now. 2 rounds, 1 in a row for W7M. So, round number 22, most likely going to be the EK coming out from LG. There's no reason to force without any reason. Quiet, I just thought of this phrase, a frivolous force. Do you like it?
You're such a nerd.
Do you know what frivolous means?
Yep.
Something that holds no value. Anyway, it would have been if they forced it, because it would have been pointless. So it would have been a frivolous force. But anyway, it's going to be the quasi-buy coming out. Just going to be 2 sets of Kevlar, but apart from that, Deagles, CZs across the board. LG obviously going to be buying up into round number 23. So the main goal here is to try and take guns out of the hands from W7M, trying to force out a UMP or a weaker weapon into the next round. But actually, into a 4 versus 3 with Kevlar still onto 2 players, maybe, just maybe there's something to get excited about.
Well, Yell, he's been able to sneak his way out of Palace. Lucas, unfortunately, going to lose on that duel against Peng, but does do some decent damage to him. I'm just worried about Yell, though, because not only Yell, but Zach actually have been able to push through. But Zach has gone down. Will they expect Yell, though, to have already pushed out past this point? Yep, he spots out RMN, who doesn't notice him. He doesn't take the shot because he wants more kills than this. Now he's just going to look for the easy deagle. There you go. No headshot. What was that? But either way, the bomb's going to move its way up through B. And it comes down to Yell to lock this one down, to give them the control they need to get this bomb down safely and to win this 2v2.
Smoke has been deployed towards kitchen. 2 versus 2. No Molotovs, no smokes here for the CT side, as all they have is 1 defuse kit onto YJ and some flashbangs to work with. However, LG also going to be lacking in terms of firepower and utility. Just a solo M4 onto Yell, as the M4 can line up the first. In the meantime, YJ finds the frag onto the default site. Nekkers tries to peek with his teammate, but actually going to be conceding the advantage here, as Yell manages to work his way in towards behind the site and into the 1 versus 1, does concede the kill. 7-15 as this game continues on into round number 24. We're not done just yet here, Jason.
That nade out of YJ, decimated. Just decimated Yell. And if that nade didn't land, there was a very good opportunity that Yell could have won out on that situation, but really well done by YJ to keep his composure. Not the first time he's been able to help clutch out around here as he did on the T side in the first half. Into round number 23, 15-7. And now Luminosity back to buying, and more importantly, back to the double AWP. Rafa's got to be careful. He's got to really respect this in the middle at least.
I mean, to be fair, most likely is the W. The win, obviously, especially when you factor in the fact that Nekkers has found the first kill in towards Connector, onto Rafa, who goes for the peak with the AWP above the smoke in Connector. But yeah, 2 players towards ramp here, 3 towards middle. Most likely going to be the split in towards the A site, as mid control now favors LG. Zach knows his player towards CPL. He's going to be anticipating the face that is about to come through, and RMM gets read like a book. And there you have it, 5 versus 3, 2-man advantage here for LG, and there should be 16-7 on the cards.
At least at the times we've seen LG have a man advantage, it's very, very likely that that's going to be the outcome in this one. But YJ is still alive, and YJ's been a big player for the team. Currently had 14 kills and 16 deaths, but he's had a couple of clutches here that have helped net them these rounds. Pink's going to follow, though, and so are the hopes of W7M. YJ is going to eventually drop after getting 1, but Riot's the last one alive, up against 4. Just have Yell trying to come out of Palace. He gets the first frag, has Lucas as well, gets him towards ramp, but it's not going to be enough. And Luminosity will take the first map here in this series to put themselves up 1-0, and now take it to a match point map over on Cash. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have to head to a short break. When we come back, map 2 will be kicking off. It will be Cash, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes.